we have studied about the applications of chemistry, like how the chemistry is used in day-to-day life. And you have by now understood, I suppose, that chemistry is something which is inevitable, right from the oxygen we breathe, from the food we eat, from the clothes we wear, to the automobiles which we travel. Okay, everywhere chemistry plays a role. The book you write, the pen you have, the ink you have in it, the marker, everything is a contribution of chemistry. So we cannot imagine life without chemistry and all these innovations. So as I said, chemistry is the study of composition of a substance. Okay, that is, what is it made up of? By composition we mean what is this particular substance is made up of. Okay, for example, we say water. Okay, what is water made up of? It is made up of hydrogen and oxygen. Let's say like, what is oxygen? Oxygen is so important, it is required for us to breathe, right? And then we say, what is carbon dioxide? What it is made up of? It is made up of carbon and oxygen, right? So we study the composition of substances. We study the properties. How does water behave with metals? How does water behave with non-metals? Can we store water in this? Can we store water in that? All the properties, the reactions. So when we are studying the composition, we have to study the properties. We have to study the chemical reactions of any chemical substance or any material for that matter. We cannot do it anywhere but in a certain place which is known as a chemical laboratory or a chemistry lab. So basically, in your house, you have every room which is allocated for a specific function. We have the washrooms to use. We have the kitchen where we have to prepare the food, right? And then we have the puja mandir, suppose most of you must be having, where we pray to God. And then we have a study room where we study, right? So there is a specific region in the home allocated for a specific function. Like that, the chemical experiments, the chemical reactions are carried out in a place called chemical laboratory. Now, in a kitchen, if you have to cook food, you need what? Utensils. So, in a chemistry lab, to perform the various functions, to perform the various reactions, we need chemical apparatus, right? So, chemical apparatus okay, so chemical apparatus is basically that particular substances or that particular vessels, in a common man's language we can say, in which we are using to perform the various chemical reactions. So today we are also going to study, so we have studied what is the importance of chemistry in our day-to-day life. So in order to keep these principles and use these principles of chemistry, we need a chemical laboratory. And in a chemical laboratory, we need chemical apparatus. Now, what are the common apparatus which we use in a chemical lab? And each chemical apparatus has its own use. Okay, so today let us study what are the various chemical apparatuses available in the laboratory and how are we going to use them. Yes, okay, the first one is a test tube. Okay, so a test tube is a cylindrical tube. Okay, it's a cylindrical tube. Now, when coming to, just before, let me tell you something before we go on to the test tube. What is this chemical apparatus made up of? So when we choose the material to make the chemical apparatus, certain things we have to keep in mind. The first thing is the substance or the material which we are using to make the chemical apparatus should not react with the substances. So it should be really an inert substance. That's why the most commonly used substance, okay, or commonly used material in making chemical apparatus is glass. Now, why do we use glass? Is because glass is transparent. So, we can see any changes which are happening easily. Secondly, glass is very much inert. It does not react with so many other substances. So, we can happily carry out all the chemical reactions in the glass apparatus. And thirdly, this glass, especially if it is modified, and we have special types of glasses like the Pyrex glass and the Borosilicate glass. These Pyrex and Borosilicate glasses, they expand very little on heating. So when this is a very important property because they do not crack on heating to high temperatures, and most of the chemical reactions require heating, and some of them require heating to high temperatures, even up to a few thousands of degrees of Celsius. Is that clear? So basically, the apparatus which we are going to use in a chemical lab is made up of glass. And this we are using because of three properties as I've already mentioned, because of its transparency, because of its chemical inert nature, and thirdly, because of its least expansion properties. So its resistance to cracking on heating. That's why we use glass. Is that clear? Now, coming to the first apparatus which we use here, the test tube. The test tube is basically, it is a cylindrical container, okay? It is a cylindrical container which is basically made up of glass. Now, those test tubes which are required for strong heating are made up of Pyrex glass, okay? They are made of Pyrex glass or Borosilicate glass, and they are known as hard tubes or boiling tubes. They are known as boiling tubes because the chemical substances can be reacted or can be taken in these boiling tubes, and they can be heated to high temperatures. Is that clear? Okay. So this was about the test tubes. Then when you're heating a test tube, can you just hold the test tube and put it in the flame? No, isn't it? You're going to burn your hand. So you need a holder. You need a holder to hold the test tube. This particular holder which is used to hold the test tube is called the test tube holder. Okay, test tube holder. This test tube holder is just like the tongs which are present in your kitchen. It comprises of a stainless steel ring, okay, onto which we are going to put the test tube, okay, and then it has a handle, okay, it has a handle, and this particular handle which we are holding is made up of an insulating material which could be wood or plastic. Is this clear? So a test tube is placed in this test tube holder and then it is heated, right? And then once you perform the chemical reaction, you have to keep the test tube, right? So a test tube is held in its position by a test tube holder or a test tube stand. You have a test tube stand which is going to hold the test tubes. Is that clear? Right? And this test tube stand is made up of plastic. But mind you children, if it is made up of plastic, immediately don't put the hot test tubes into the plastic stand. If it is a cold test tube, then if it is simply containing some chemical substance or it is cold or it's at room temperature, then you can place it in a plastic stand. But if it is hot, you have to take a test tube stand which is made up of wood. Okay. So the test tube stand is a stand which is going to hold the test tubes. Is that clear? Then for the liquids, to hold the liquids, okay, to hold the liquids, we have three types of flasks. Okay, three types of flasks are present to hold the liquids. What are these three types of flasks? The first one is your round bottomed flask. Now this round bottom flask consists of a cylindrical neck, okay? It consists of a cylindrical neck and a spherical base, okay? And a spherical base. Now this round bottom flask is used to hold the liquids and it is used for basically heating the liquids. If you have to heat a liquid mixture or a mixture of a solid and liquid, so whenever you have to heat something which is liquid in nature, you use a round bottom flask. Is that clear? Okay, and then next we have the flat bottomed flask. So what is a flat bottomed flask? A flat bottomed flask, similar to a round bottomed flask, will have a cylindrical neck, okay, and its base, okay, its base is going to be flat, okay, its base is going to be flat. Is that clear? Okay, and this is used to store liquids. It is used to store liquids. It is not used for heating liquids. It's just used to store liquids. The third type of flask which we have is the conical flask. Okay, is the conical flask. Now this conical flask, just like the other two, will have a cylindrical neck, but it will have a conical body. It will have a conical body. So this particular conical body is used to again hold the liquids. So conical flask and flat bottom flask are basically used to hold the liquids. They used to store the liquids, whereas the round bottom flask is used to heat the liquids. So these are the three types of flasks which we commonly use in the chemical laboratory. Is that clear? Okay. Now, then coming to the next is the glass tubings. The glass tubings are nothing but they are narrow tubings, cylindrical tubings with a width about, they are about 3 mm in diameter. Okay, these are the glass tubings, okay, glass tubes which are narrow tubes and they are of the width of 3 mm. These glass tubes basically they are used to pass the gases, pass the liquids, or they may be molded to form the delivery tubes, etc. Is that clear? And then the next apparatus we come across is again a glass rod. Okay, is a glass rod. Now this glass rod is basically again a cylindrical pipe-like structure. Okay, it is a cylindrical pipe-like structure, okay, which is slightly closed at one end, and this glass rod, diameter of this glass rod is again 3 mm, and this particular glass rod is used to stir substances. If you need to mix up substances, suppose you have added a solid to a liquid, you want to dissolve this, you can increase the dissolution by stirring, isn't it? So this stirring, and you have taken two liquids, you want to mix these liquids properly. So if you want to mix these liquids properly, you have to use a glass rod. Just like, you know, you add some sugar and to your milk and you have to stir it with a spoon, right? So here in the chemistry lab, okay, that is the chemical laboratory, we use the apparatus glass rod to mix the substances. Is that clear? Okay, and then after this we have the what is known as the measuring cylinder. Okay, we have the measuring cylinder. The measuring cylinder is a graduated cylindrical shape apparatus. Okay, it is a cylindrical shaped apparatus. Okay, it has a lip at one end so that the liquids can be easily poured, and this is graduated. That means it has markings on it to indicate the volume. Is that clear? So a measuring cylinder is basically used to measure the volume of liquids in a chemistry laboratory. For suppose you just need 100 ml of some substance, then you have to take a measuring cylinder, pour the liquid up to the 100 ml mark and then transfer it. Okay, so a measuring cylinder is basically used to measure the volume of the liquid. Is that clear? Now, for small definite volumes, okay, so basically a measuring cylinder is used to measure volumes of any type, like any measure, okay, like you can use 10 ml if you want 10 ml, 20 ml, 30 ml, and these measuring cylinders are available of different sizes, like 25 ml measuring cylinder, it could be 50 ml, could be 100 ml, 500 ml, even 1 liter measuring cylinders are available. And these measuring cylinders are made up of either glass or plastic, and depending upon the substances you are measuring, you can either use a glass measuring cylinder or a plastic measuring cylinder. Is that clear? Okay. Then next is, in order to measure, okay, in order to measure small definite volumes of liquid, we have the apparatus known as the pipette. Okay, we have the apparatus known as the pipette. Now this particular pipette is basically, it has a cylindrical tube, okay, a cylindrical tube with a nozzle at one end, and then it has a bulb in the center, and it has a marking, okay, it has a marking, and you can suck the liquid up to the marking, and then that amount of liquid can be taken. So it is usually used to measure small quantities of liquids, whether it is 5 ml, 10 ml, 20 ml, etc. But it is a definite quantity. Unlike the difference between a pipette and a measuring cylinder is, a measuring cylinder can be used to measure any quantity of the liquid. As I said, it could be, if you want 10 ml, 20 ml, 30 ml, you could take the measuring cylinder. But pipette is for a definite volume of liquid. If it's 20 ml, if it's a 20 ml pipette, you can measure only 20 ml. If it's a 10 ml pipette, you can measure only 10 ml. But you can't use a 20 ml and take the 20 ml pipette and measure out 10 ml pipette. So that's the difference between a pipette and a measuring cylinder. Is that clear? But the pipette gives you accurate measure. It is very, very precise. Okay. Another apparatus in the chemical laboratory which we use to measure the volume of liquids is a burette. Okay, is a burette. Now this particular burette comprises of a long cylindrical tube. Okay, it has a long cylindrical tube with a nozzle, and this has a lock here, a stop clock like sort of thing, and this is graduated. Okay, this is graduated. So you're going to take liquid in this burette, and then you slowly open the lock there, okay, this clock there, and then the liquid will flow through the nozzle, and once you have transferred the desired amount or desired volume of the liquid, you immediately close this and the liquid remains back in this. Is that clear? So we have 3 apparatus which are used to transfer the measured quantity or measured volume of the liquid, that is the measuring cylinder, the pipette and the burette. Is that clear? Okay. And then we have stands, okay, Stands are required in a chemical laboratory to hold the apparatus. Okay, these stands are basically made up of cast iron so that they will not be easily rusted and they are easily molded. Okay, so it is basically made up of iron, and these stands, okay, these are the stands which are going to hold the apparatus. So they have rings in between by which you can support the apparatus. Is that clear? Okay. And then we have a tripod stand. Okay. A tripod stand. So what is a tripod? Tri means 3. Pod means legs. So a stand which has 3 legs is called a tripod stand. So we have this tripod stand, and this tripod stand is also used This is used to support the apparatus when you're heating. So just like how you place the vessel on the stand of a stove and then heat it, you're going to place the chemical apparatus, the flask, okay, especially the round bottom flask, because we are using the round bottom flask for heating. So that round bottom flask is going to be placed on this tripod stand and heated. Again, this is made up of cast iron. Okay. Now, you have realized, children, that there is, if it's going to be placed here in this region, there won't be proper support for the apparatus, and moreover there won't be proper uniform heating. So to ensure uniform heating and to also support the apparatus properly, we have another chemical, another apparatus which is known as the wire gauze. Okay, which is known as a wire gauze. The wire gauze comprises of a mesh. Okay, it has a metallic mesh. Okay, it has a metallic mesh, and in the center you have an asbestos ring. Okay, you have an asbestos ring in the center. Now, this particular wire gauze is placed on the tripod stand, and on this wire gauze the apparatus is placed, and then they are going to heat it. Now, what is the importance of this wire gauze? Since it is made up of asbestos, it allows even spreading of the heat. Okay, uniform heating. It's not just heated in the center, the flame is spread, and that is how it is going to have uniform heating. The contents of the vessel are going to be uniformly heated because of this wire gauze with the asbestos ring. Is that clear? Okay. And then the next thing is, the next apparatus which we have is a funnel. The funnel is a conical shaped structure with a cylindrical stem. Okay, now this funnel is basically, it is either made up of glass or it is made up of plastic. Okay, now this funnel is used to transfer liquids without spilling. See, when you're transferring liquids from one container to the other container, there is definitely going to be some spilling happening. And most of these chemicals are toxic substances. They are corrosive. So you have to avoid contact with them. And when you're handling these, you should be very, very careful. So especially when you're transferring the liquids, you use a funnel to carefully pour the liquids from one container to the other container. Apart from being used to transfer the liquids, a funnel is also used in the process of filtration. So filtration is nothing but, children, like, if suppose you have sand water and you want to separate that sand from the water, or you have some dirt in the water and you want pure water, so you want to remove that dirt, so you have to filter it. Yes, you have to filter it. You must have seen filtering in your house every day while your mother is making tea. What does she do? She passes the tea, after the tea is made in through the filter, that is a strainer, right, to remove the tea particles from the tea which we drink, right? So same thing here, for filtration we use a funnel, and here in the center we place a filter paper. We fold the filter paper in the form of a cone and you place it in the funnel, and then you pour the impure water so that you get pure water. So a funnel is used for both for transferring of liquids as well as for filtration. Is that clear? Now, we have studied about all the apparatus which is being used for making carrying out various chemical reactions, holding liquids, measuring the liquids, holding the chemical substances, and then how to hold the apparatus. Everything we have come. Now comes the major things is, most of the chemical reactions take place due to heating. Heat energy is very, very essential for most of the chemical reactions to take place. So to heat, we need some energy, some source of heat which is required. So here we have two types of burners here. One is the spirit lamp. Okay, one is the spirit lamp. Now this spirit lamp is nothing but, it comprises of a cylindrical vessel which contains the fuel, like basically we take spirit here, which, okay, spirit in this and this as a wick here, and when you light, and this wick will dip in this particular spirit, and when you light the wick, it will glow or it will catch fire, and the flame is produced. The next important source is the Bunsen burner. Okay, the Bunsen burner is one of the most important apparatus which is required in a chemistry lab, because it is this Bunsen burner which we are going to used for heating. This Bunsen burner is connected to the LPG connection in your laboratory, and just like how a flame is produced in your home when you on the stove, when you on the Bunsen burner, a flame is produced. But the Bunsen burner is so designed that the flame produced by the Bunsen burner, it produces large amount of heat energy. Is that clear? So this is about some of the chemical apparatus which we use in the chemistry lab or a chemical laboratory to carry out various chemical reactions. And why are these chemical reactions important? Because we need to study the composition, we need to study the reactions, we need to study the properties of chemical substances, right? And why all this is important? All this is important because chemistry plays a very, very important role in our day-to-day life. And to make our life more comfortable and more convenient, we need all these comforts or all these contributions of chemistry. Is that clear?